But there are some other things that are, really quick to go through. First one is that body fat distribution is obviously different between men and women, in general. Obviously, we're talking in generalities here, but that can make it like you can be looking for an unattainable goal. Like you can be looking for something that just is impossible for female physiology. Not impossible, I shouldn't say that, but a lot harder for female physiology. Like if you're looking for striated glutes or you're looking for striated quads as a woman, like you're gonna have to be dieting hard. You're gonna have to diet for a long time. If you're looking for relatively lean abs, that's a lot shorter of a diet for a woman. For a guy, not so much. Abs, that's the last thing for guys to come in, right? So that is something to be aware of. That first of all, fat distribution is different, but forget about the comparison between women and men. Like that's, I think a lot of people would understand that like women generally hold more fat, and also they hold it in their legs, their lower body, right? But on top of that, and this is just by virtue of the fact that it's, or just a fucking annoying thing, is that if you compare a woman to another woman, they could literally have the exact same body fat percentage and look completely different. Like if you just genetically, because of your parents or whatever, you just store body fat in your boobs and your bum, like you could be 35% body fat, and you compare yourself, if you store it favorably there, you could compare yourself to someone that stores it less favorably, and you're like, they have no boobs, they have no bum, and they store it all in this kind of like central adiposity, more of this like male body fat pattern. You compare those two individuals and you'd be like, oh, this person that stores it more centrally, they're really overweight and whatever else. Whereas this other individual that just stores the exact same quantity of body fat in their boobs and their bum, all of a sudden they're a social media icon. They're like, oh my God, like you have the ideal physique and whatever else, so it's like, you have to actually be realistic with your goals, your ambitions, with the genetics that you have. And that is just oftentimes a hard pill to swallow. And that's not to say that you can't improve the look of your body, the body composition, and also the shape of your body. But it is something that you just need to be realistic with. You just need to actually look at your body and be like, actually, where do I store body fat? And I don't mean like, oh, where do I store it when I don't like it? I'm like, do you actually store fat on your boobs? Do you actually store fat on your bum, your thighs? Like where are you actually storing this? Like, because that actually allows you to be more realistic, because I know everyone always goes like, oh, I store the majority of my fat here. And it's like, no, you don't store it there. That's just a place that you don't like it. It's like, that's not where you store the majority of it. That's not where you have stubborn body fat. That's just where you would preferentially like it to go, right? So that is something to be aware of. And then somewhat like, and it's really apparent, especially because like women will give out about stuff that it's just like it's necessary for female physiology. Like women will give out about like fat just below their belly button, and I'm like, this fat here is literally evolutionarily designed so that it keeps you fucking reproductively healthy. It's like we want to have a fat store near our reproductive organs. It's like this is beneficial. It's the same reason, like, well, it's not the same reason, but it's the same like evolutionary thought process of like, why are men's testicles outside the body? It's because, oh well, actually being slightly cooler is better for sperm production. Do you think having your testicles outside of your body is conducive to war, living a fucking life that you want to live, anything like that? No. That's why a lot of animals keep their testicles inside their body. It's like, if you're going to fight another individual and he rips off your fucking testicles, like that's not great for the continuation of the species, right? So that is something to be aware of. It's like evolution has designed things for a reason. That reason may not be, what you want in day-to-day life now, in this environment where we've taken ourselves out of nature, but it is designed that way for a reason, right? And unfortunately, again, it might not be congruent with what you want, right? And related to this is the fact that oftentimes, like, female anatomy, like the structure of their bones, puts them in a position where they have features that they don't necessarily want, right? And they don't necessarily like the look of, right? And this can be misconstrued then as like, oh, I just need to lose fat. Like you'll see women talk about the fact that like, oh, I have these like hip dips, right? Or like saddle bags. They like talk about like, oh, the side of my leg here, like it's a saddle bag or whatever. It's just fat loss. I need to get more fat loss and it'll improve the look of that. When in reality, it's like, this is literally just the like Q angle of your hips for one, but then also like the actual joint structure here. It's like these are your bones. You're not going to change that with fat loss, It's like that's not going to actually impact that. You're not going to be able to add muscle and just like plop it on here, like, some sort of like fucking mala or whatever. It's like, that's not going to happen, right? So you need to be realistic. And unfortunately, if you're an individual that's just getting into this stuff, you don't have realistic expectations, because you just look at the women on social media that have these idealized physiques. These have these like genetically favorable fat distribution, and then genetically favorable like bone structure to, look a certain way. What are your thoughts there, Gary?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of that. Body fat distribution is something that varies both, within and across the sexes. So I mean, like, guys complain of the exact same thing. They'll, like, for me, for example, I have the classic kind of android body fat distribution where I store a bit more on my abdomen. My abs will disappear, but I'll still have like veins in my arms. My legs will look quite lean. My face will always be lean. And there's pros and cons to that. Like, I'd like to see my abs more, I'd like to see it at a higher body fat percentage. But at the same time, I like when my arms look kind of veiny, and I like when my face looks a little bit leaner. So that there's always going to be pros and cons. And you just kind of have to take that and just recognize what you can and can't change. There's almost always some advantage to the things that are downsides, as you say, the evolutionarily conserved body fat distribution for childbirth, etc. And yeah, look, just, it's not worthy of your attention if it's not something you can change, and recognize that it's most often those things that you can't change that people will prey on the most. You've got lots of special exercises to fix your hip dips and all that sort of stuff, but yeah, just try to keep your attention away from that.
Yeah, which brings me to the next point, and it's probably, if the fact that women have metabolic adaptations that are less favorable for fat loss, if that's the number one,